Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a really densely philosophical, truly mind-bending text from 1967.
Yeah, it's a heavy one.
It really is. We are looking at a book called The Society of the Spectacle by the French writer Guy Debord. And specifically, we'll be navigating the annotated translation by Ken Nab.
Right.
But before we get into the heavy theory, I want you to just think about your typical day for a second. You wake up, and maybe the very first thing you do is reach for your phone to scroll through a feed of perfectly curated images.
Like almost everyone does.
Exactly. You commute through this landscape of identical shopping centers, identical drive-thrus, office parks. You buy things you probably don't strictly need. And, well, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, you're mostly just trying to grind through until the weekend.
It's a very familiar, highly predictable rhythm. And for most of us, it is the rhythm we're conditioned to accept as completely natural.
Yeah, we just call that modern life, right? But what if it's not natural at all? What if all of this, the scrolling, the endless shopping, the living for Friday at 5 p.m., what if all of that is actually a carefully constructed framework?
A totally artificial environment.
Right, a highly organized trap designed to keep you completely blissfully passive.
That is the rather unsettling premise we are going to explore today. Debord's work has fundamentally shaped how many cultural critics view modern society. But I think it's worth noting right up front that Debord is writing from a radical Marxist perspective.
Right, yeah.
He is delivering a highly charged political critique. So we aren't here today to take a political stance or, tell you he's right or wrong.
Definitely not.
We're just putting on our explorer hats to neutrally map out his arguments. Because love it or hate it, his blueprint of how society functions is absolutely fascinating. And understanding the architecture of his ideas helps explain why this text remains, well, so fiercely debated decades later.
I think that's a perfect boundary to set. We are just looking at the blueprints. And the foundation of that entire blueprint, the concept everything else is built on, is a single word. The spectacle.
The spectacle. Yes.
Now, when I first read that word, my brain immediately went to visual things. I pictured like a giant neon billboard or a massive Hollywood blockbuster, just a smartphone screen. I thought the spectacle was just mass media throwing images at us all day.
That is the most common misconception people have when they first encounter Debord's work.
Really? So it's not just the screens?
Not at all.
Yeah.
He actually makes a very crucial distinction early in the book. He explicitly states, this is Thesis 4, that the spectacle is not merely a collection of images. Instead, he defines it as a social relation between people that is mediated by images.
Wait, a social relation mediated by images? I need a practical example of that. What does that actually look like in our day-to-day lives?
Think about it this way. The spectacle isn't just the glowing television screen or the app you're looking at. It's the way your relationship with your friends, your family, and society at large has been completely reorganized by the underlying logic of those images.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it is a worldview that has materialized into objective reality. It's not just a shiny decoration added to the real world. Debord argues it is the very heart of our society's unreality.
Unreality, wow.
Right. The spectacle justifies the existing system, and it demands your passive acceptance simply by monopolizing all of your attention. It dictates the terms of how you interact with other human beings.
So it's not just that we're passively looking at images, it's that we literally communicate through them.
Yes, exactly.
We measure our own worth, our relationships, our level of success by the standards these images set. The images become the water we swim in, and we don't even realize we're wet.
That captures it perfectly. And to really grasp how this operates as a social relation, we first need to look at how the spectacle has fundamentally altered what human beings prioritize.
Okay, so like a historical shift.
Exactly. Debord outlines a really fascinating historical progression to explain this in Thesis 17. He argues that in the first stage of economic domination, human fulfillment was downgraded from being to having.
From being to having. Okay, so if we look back historically, who you were, your character, your direct lived experiences, your skills, that was what mattered most. That was the core of your fulfillment.
Right, that was the being phase.
Then, with the rise of the Industrial Revolution and mass production, that core shifted to what you owned. You needed the house, the car, the physical accumulations of wealth. That's a having.
Yes. But Debord says modern society has moved past even that stage.
Past having.
Yeah. In the present stage of the spectacle, he argues there's been a general overarching shift from having to appearing.
Appearing.
All having must now derive its immediate prestige and its ultimate purpose entirely from its appearance.
Man, If our entire sense of worth is based on appearing, then the actual physical object doesn't even matter anymore. Let me try an analogy to ground this because this shift from having to appearing is wild.
Go for it.
It's like being at a VIP club. If you go back in time, the goal used to be enjoying the music, feeling the energy of the room that's being.
Right. The direct experience.
Then the goal shifted to actually buying the expensive VIP table that's having. You possess the status symbol. But now, under the logic of the spectacle, the only point of buying the VIP table is to make sure everyone else sees you sitting at it.
You're performing the having.
Exactly. You buy the bottle with the sparklers, you take a photo, you post it for your followers. The reality of the table, whether you are actually having fun or having a miserable time, it doesn't matter at all. Only the image of it matters. That's appearing.
That VIP club analogy perfectly illustrates his point. The actual lived reality is completely subordinated to the representation of that reality.
It's all just representation.
Yeah. And Debord uses a very striking, almost aggressive phrase to describe the relentless nature of this shift. In Thesis 44, he calls the spectacle a permanent opium war.
A permanent opium war. That is an incredibly intense phrase. Why use that specific historical reference?
Well, because it captures the deeply coercive nature of the system. If you look at the historical opium wars, they were about forcing a market open, physically forcing a population to consume an addictive substance to benefit an empire's economy.
Right.
Debord says the spectacle operates the exact same way. It is designed to force people to equate goods with commodities and to equate genuine human satisfaction with mere survival. He calls it an augmented survival.
Augmented survival. So it's
Yeah.
like we aren't actually thriving or living deeper, richer lives. We are just surviving, but our survival looks really shiny.
Exactly. It has a high-definition gloss on it.
We get better smartphones, we get faster Wi-Fi, our cages get gilded, but we are still fundamentally just surviving the economic machine.
Precisely. It's a war to keep you addicted to consuming images. It may gild poverty, making your basic survival look glamorous, but it never actually transcends that poverty of experience.
Because it can't afford to let you transcend it.
Right. You are kept in a state of perpetual privation because there is always a new image, a new aesthetic, a new level of appearance you must urgently achieve.
Because if you ever felt actually satisfied, if you ever put your phone down and stopped needing the next image, the whole economic machine would just grind to a halt.
It would. The economy demands boundless development, which means it demands the boundless fabrication of pseudo-needs.
And if our entire sense of worth is tied up in appearing, we suddenly need an endless supply of props to keep up that appearance. Which I guess brings us to how the commodity operates in Debord's framework. He claims that the commodity has totally colonized everyday life, right?
He does. In Thesis 42, he describes the spectacle as the stage where the commodity has totally colonized social life. Commodification is no longer just visible. We no longer see anything else.
It's everywhere.
The world we see is entirely the world of the commodity.
So it's not just the grocery store or the shopping mall anymore. It's the colonization of our friendships, our hobbies, our identities.
It permeates everything.
Like, you can't just like baking bread anymore. You have to buy the aesthetic sourdough starter kit, film the process, and monetize the aesthetic. Everything is packaged and sold back to us as a fragmented piece of this total commodity.
You've hit on the exact mechanism. And the psychological and social result of this total colonization is a profound sense of alienation and separation. This is a massive theme in the text.
Alienation, how so?
Well, Debord points out a glaring contradiction. The workers, the everyday people, are the ones who literally produce every detail of this physical world. They build the cars, they pave the roads, they write the software.
Right, they make the world.
But as the world becomes this massive accumulation of commodities, they are completely excluded from the very life they built. The closer their life comes to being their own creation, the more they are separated from it.
That's Thesis 33, right?
Yes. And he summarizes this bluntly in Thesis 34 by stating that the spectacle is capital accumulated to the point where it becomes images.
Wait, I need to stop you there. Capital accumulated to the point where it becomes an image. What is the literal mechanism there? Do you mean that once a corporation has enough money and power, they stop selling us physical things and start just selling us the lifestyle associated with their brand?
That's a huge part of it, yes. When capital accumulates to a certain extreme, the physical utility of the product becomes secondary.
Oh, like shoes.
Exactly. A shoe company isn't selling you rubber and canvas to protect your feet. They are selling you the image of athletic greatness or street-level rebellion. The capital is transformed into a purely visual, symbolic force that dictates culture.
Okay, I'm struggling with this a bit, though. Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Please do.
Because I feel like I'm making real independent choices every day. I choose which brand of shoes to buy. I pick which indie movie to stream. I decide to go to a thrift store instead of a major retailer. I feel like I am steering the cart. How can Debord argue I'm totally alienated when I'm the one making all these hyper-specific choices?
It's a vital question, and it hits at the very paradox of modern consumerism. Debord addresses this illusion of choice directly. He argues that the alienation works precisely because of the consumption.
How does that work?
In Thesis 30, he writes that the more a person contemplates, the less he lives.
The more you contemplate, the less you live. Meaning, the more time I spend agonizing over the millions of choices the spectacle offers me, the less actual authentic living I'm doing.
Yes, and furthermore, he argues that your gestures and choices are no longer your own. They belong to the images that are dictating your needs.
So my choices are fake.
Well, you feel like you're making an independent choice by picking the thrift store jacket over the designer coat, but both options were pre-selected by the spectacle to reinforce its own power.
Oh, wow.
You are just choosing from a pre-approved menu of rebellious aesthetics. You are identifying with the dominant images of need. The spectator doesn't feel at home anywhere because the spectacle is everywhere.
It estranges you from your own desires.
Exactly. Your life becomes something you watch rather than something you actively enact.
That is chilling. It's like wandering through a massive, endless, incredibly well-decorated department store. You can touch everything, you can buy anything, you can try on 100 different outfits, but you can't actually live there.
It's a transient space.
Right. It's not a home. You are just a permanent visitor in a space built exclusively for transactions.
And this profound feeling of being a stranger in your own life isn't just a psychological or emotional state. What's deeply unsettling is that Debord argues this alienation is physically built into the very geography of your world.
Wait, physically?
It is poured into the concrete.
Literally built into the ground, like
Yeah.
architecture and city streets.
Yes. This brings us to his critique of what he calls urbanism, or city planning. He defines urbanism as capitalism's method for taking over the natural and human environment.
Okay, I always thought city planning was just a neutral functional science. Figuring out where the water mains go, making sure traffic flows efficiently from downtown to the suburbs. How can zoning laws and traffic lights be a tool of the spectacle?
According to Thesis 169, it is far from neutral. He calls urbanism the technology of separation.
Technology of separation.
He argues that its underlying essence is to atomize people. Think about sprawling suburban housing developments or massive shopping centers surrounded by oceans of parking.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
These physical spaces are designed to foster what he calls pseudo-communities. They bring isolated individuals together, but strictly as isolated individuals.
Oh, I see. You're together but alone.
Exactly. You are kept physically separate, staring at your own screens, driving in your own private car. The historical concept of the city street as a place of true gathering, spontaneous interaction, and potential rebellion is deliberately suppressed in favor of freeways and optimized traffic flow.
So modern city planning is basically like a zoo enclosure for humans.
That's a good way to put it.
It's designed to look like a natural habitat, a pseudo-community with some trees and a neighborhood sign. But its actual physical purpose is to keep the inhabitants safely separated, easily manageable, and totally cut off from real, unpredictable life.
Unpredictable historical life, yeah.
You're just pacing your enclosure, driving from the pod of your house to the pod of your car to the pod of your office.
That is a very apt, if slightly dystopian way to visualize it. In
Right.
fact, Debord refers to the people living in these planned, atomized environments as an artificial neo-peasantry. That's in Thesis 177.
An artificial neo-peasantry. Wow. Let's sit with that for a second. That hits incredibly hard.
It really does.
Because if you think about historical peasants in agrarian societies, they were geographically dispersed. They were kept isolated out on their plots of land so they couldn't organize, share ideas, or challenge the king.
Right, their isolation was their subjugation.
And Debord is saying modern city dwellers are the exact same thing, just isolated in our suburban tracts or luxury high-rises. We have the illusion of being connected because of the internet, but physically we are entirely dispersed. Our apathy is historically manufactured by the layout of our neighborhoods.
That is the exact parallel he is drawing. The spectacle physically isolates you to maintain control.
But what about when we leave the city? What about travel? Surely when you escape the suburban sprawl and go on a big vacation, you're breaking out of the enclosure, you're seeing the world, experiencing different cultures?
Debord dismantles that idea as well in Thesis 168. When you try to escape this geography, you engage in tourism, and he defines tourism merely as human circulation packaged for consumption.
Packaged human circulation.
It is a byproduct of the circulation of commodities. You are actually exploring. You are traveling just to see places that have already been totally banalized and made equivalent to everywhere else by the Economic Organization of Travel.
So everywhere becomes the same.
Exactly. The modernization that eliminated the time involved in travel-like commercial flights has simultaneously eliminated any real authentic space from it.
So buying a plane ticket isn't an escape, it's just buying another commodity. You're just circulating yourself like a product on a conveyor belt, going to a place that has been perfectly curated to look exactly like the image you bought in a brochure.
Precisely.
You go to a resort in another country, and it has the exact same coffee shop and the exact same luxury stores as your mall back home.
Exactly that. You aren't experiencing history or authentic culture. You are just consuming the spectacle's prepackaged version of it.
Okay, if our physical space is a design trap, whether it's the suburbs or the tourist resort, what about our time? What about our free time?
Time.
The time we use to escape work and urban sprawl. That has to belong to us, right? I mean, what you do on a Sunday afternoon in your own backyard is your business.
This brings us to perhaps one of Debord's most piercing insights. He introduces the concept of pseudo-cyclical time.
Pseudo-cyclical time.
He argues that our modern free time is just a consumable disguise of the production system's commodified time.
Okay, let's break that word down. Pseudo obviously means fake, and cyclical refers to cycles, like the changing of the seasons or the phases of the moon.
Precisely. In ancient agrarian societies, time was truly cyclical. It was based on the sun, the seasons, the harvest. It was a natural rhythm.
Right.
But modern capitalist production relies on irreversible, linear, commodified time. Time that is sliced up into equal exchangeable units. Work hours, factory shifts, fiscal quarters, deadlines.
Very rigid.
Yes, and to make this rigid, mechanical time palatable to human beings, the system dresses it up to mimic the old natural cycles. So we get the rhythm of day and night shifts, the cycle of the work week versus the weekend, the annual periodic vacation.
It looks like a natural rhythm, but it is entirely manufactured by industry.
Exactly.
So when you are grinding through a Tuesday, looking forward all year to an all-inclusive vacation, you aren't actually stepping outside the system at all.
Not at all.
You're just buying a pre-packaged imitation of freedom that feeds right back into the exact same economic machine you're trying to escape from. Is the modern weekend really just a battery recharge for the production line?
The text confirms exactly that. Debord notes that concentrated capitalism increasingly markets what he calls fully equipped blocks of time.
Fully equipped blocks of time.
These are unified commodities, a trip to a spectacular living environment, a cultural subscription, an all-inclusive guided tour. You're quite literally buying time itself, often on credit.
Wow.
And then these moments of leisure are presented to us as true life. We're supposed to look forward to them as the only moments when we are finally ourselves.
Just get to Friday. Just make it to the trip in July. We say it to ourselves and our coworkers all the time. We treat the work week like a holding pen and the weekend like the actual event.
Yes. But what is really happening during that weekend or that vacation is just the spectacle reproducing itself at a higher level of intensity. You are spending your time consuming images of leisure. As Debord states in Thesis 154, the reality of time has been replaced by the publicity of time.
The publicity of time. So your weekend isn't your own. It's a billboard for the concept of a weekend. And you paid for the privilege of standing in front of it.
That's a great way to phrase it.
You take the pictures, you post the sunset, you show everyone you're having a weekend, but you aren't actually generating your own history. You are just acting out the script of leisure that was sold to you.
And when you are consuming these prepackaged blocks of time, you're kept away from creating anything truly new. The system relies on you passively consuming its timeline rather than actively generating your own unscripted existence.
So you're stuck in a loop.
Yes. Pseudo-cyclical time ensures that the past continues to dominate the present because nothing fundamentally changes. You just keep cycling through the same manufactured periods of work and packaged rest.
It is a lot to process. If we step back and look at the whole architecture we've mapped out today, it's incredibly heavy.
It is a profound critique.
According to Debord, the spectacle isn't just billboards or television screens. It is an all-encompassing social relation mediated by images. It forces us into a profound downgrade, shifting us from genuinely living to just trying to acquire things, to eventually just caring about appearing to have things.
An endless cycle he terms a permanent opium war, ensuring we equate deep human satisfaction with mere augmented survival.
Right. A permanent opium war that literally colonizes our physical spaces with urbanism, turning our cities into machines of separation that make us artificial neo-peasants.
And even packaging our free time.
Exactly. It packages our free time into consumable commodities, the weekend, the vacation all, serving to keep us in a state of passive unconsciousness, completely alienated from the world we are actually building with its own hands.
That is the core architecture of the society of the spectacle. It paints a stark picture of a society where authentic, directly lived experience has been entirely replaced by representation, where any feeling of unity is just a sham that hides deep systemic divisions.
It can feel almost suffocating when you lay it all out like that. It feels like every exit door just leads to another gift shop. But Debord doesn't just leave us entirely in the dark, does he? He does point toward what he sees as a way out, a way to break this profound conditioning.
He does offer a direction. And to leave you with a final, lingering thought to explore on your own, we should look at his proposed alternative in Thesis 163.
Okay, what is it?
After outlining the total domination of commodified and pseudo-cyclical time, Debord suggests that the true revolutionary project implies the complete withering away of this socially measured time.
So getting rid of it entirely.
Yes. The alternative he presents is something he calls a federation of independent times.
A federation of independent time, so completely abandoning the 9 to 5, the Monday to Friday, the 2 weeks a year structure.
Exactly. A temporal realization where individuals and communities construct their own playful, irreversible times. Times that are simultaneously present, no longer dictated by the rigid rhythm of commodity production.
That sounds like true freedom.
It requires a radical shift in how we perceive our own agency in the world, taking back the power to shape our own history instead of just watching it unfold on a screen.
It really makes you evaluate every hour of your day. If you suddenly stopped measuring your life by the system's artificial clock, the commute, the work week, the packaged weekend, the annual vacation, what would your independent time actually look like?
Are you truly living your time?
Right. Are you truly living your time, or are you just watching it pass on a screen? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it has given you an entirely new lens through which to view your daily routine. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking behind the images, and remember to ask yourself if you're truly living in a home or just a very well-decorated enclosure.